Coming up on City Spotlight, we are talking Parrish with the Mayor of Parrish, Craig Smith, and the new Executive Director of the Parrish Area Chamber of Commerce and Tourism, Tanner Laughlin. We will talk with Mr. Laughlin about his new role with the Parrish Chamber of Commerce, the latest economic development news in Parrish, and upcoming events going on in Parrish. And at the end of the show, we will have a tour of the Edgar County Courthouse with Edgar County Historian, Heck Parrish. It's all things Parrish, next on City Spotlight. City Spotlight is supported by Consolidated Communications. CCI is honored to salute the cities and their leaders in the area, as well as providing TV, internet, and phone service to local homes and businesses. We live where we work and are proud to support the communities we serve. More information available at consolidated.com. Welcome to another edition of City Spotlight. Thank you for joining us. And today we're talking about Parrish with the Mayor of Parrish, Craig Smith. Craig, welcome back.
Thank you. Good to be back.
Excellent. And Tanner Laughlin, the new Executive Director of the Parrish Area Chamber of Commerce and Tourism.
Yep.
Welcome, Tanner.
Hi.
Pleasure. We've had Craig on a few times before, and Tanner, it's your first time on the program. And
it is.
Could you just tell us a little bit about yourself, please?
Yeah, I'm Tanner Laughlin, born and raised in Parrish, Illinois. Graduated Parrish High School in 2006, and family and friends are all over in Parrish, feel a strong connection over there. So I'm excited to be in the Office of Executive Director of the Chamber of Commerce and really give back to Parrish and see what I can do.
Excellent. And you told me before we started taping, you're just a couple weeks onto the job. So
a couple weeks onto the job, so just getting my feet wet, trying to figure things out.
Okay.
But it's been fun so far.
All right, we'll talk to you in just a second here, but let's talk to Craig first about what's going on in Parrish. And about a year ago, Craig, we were talking about economic development, businesses on Jasper Street. Is there anything else going on there, or I think you said maybe renovations going on?
A lot of renovation. RP Lumber came in and bought the facility, which was the mall. They've redecorated, refurbished it. They're now putting it out for lease. We hope that the Jasper Street and know that the Jasper Street will continue to grow. So that's going on. Another good thing about economic development in Parrish, it's always good to be in Parrish, but if you want a job, Parrish is the place to come. We have 4 factories in Parrish that are retching up for the spring and summer months, and they are all hiring. So economic development couldn't be better. We're working on housing, so we'll talk about that a little bit later, but economic development's on the up.
And as we've talked about a year ago, and now it's a full year later, state of Illinois is still in a tough economic times, trying to figure out their state budget. But for Parrish to have continued economic development and employment on the rise, you got to feel very good about how you've been able to deal with these tough times in the state of Illinois.
Right. You know, with city governments, you don't make money, so you have to stay within your budget. So we realize that, and we realize that we can have some growth some places and other places, but we just watch our dollars. We fund our pension plans the way you're supposed to, and we work with our existing employers to make sure that we're doing the right thing to keep them in Parrish so they can continue to grow. And I think that's the secret. We're also looking for new employers, but you got to keep the ones that are in your towns in business. And so we're constantly working with the existing employers as well.
And you did mention some new housing. I believe you said it was the Maple Ridge area?
We have Maple Ridge 1 was built probably about 5 years ago. Maple Ridge 2 opened just this last year. It's multiple living for seniors and anybody actually, based upon some sort of income coming in, but it's low and medium income housing. We won the design award for the state of Illinois for Maple Ridge 2. So if you're ever in Parrish, you want to come by and see how a housing development can really take over, and it's right by the hospital, over by Jasper Street, so it's a perfect location.
So that'd be on the eastern side of Parrish.
It's on the eastern side.
Very good. One thing we also talked about a year ago with the new high school opening up, and we're definitely going to talk about that, what was going to happen with the old high school. So what can you tell us about how the old high school has been used over the last year, and what might it be used for moving forward?
The old high school, the city decided early on that we should negotiate with the school to take possession of the high school so we could control the development of it. We didn't want it to end up having a bunch of broken windows and nothing going on. So we took possession when they moved to the new high school. The idea is we've got to find something to do in that old building. It's a great old building. And right now we're partnering with the with the Laborers Home Development Corporation in Springfield that brought Maple Ridge 1 and 2, looking at developing maybe senior housing for the old building. And it's in a perfect location of downtown. We're at the preliminary stages. We go through IDA, that's Illinois Housing Development Authority, to try to get tax credits, but we are at the point now where we've made it through phase 1. We're now in the final phase, and if we get it, that could be a win-win for everybody in Parrish, have an old building that's rehabbed and refurnished right downtown for housing.
And a part of the old Parrish High School is Ernie Eveland Gym. I understand that they still had some basketball games there over the course of the school year. Will that continue in the future?
It will. We have continued to use that, and we'll continue to use it even for chamber events. Anybody that wants to use it can rent it. The hospital will be having their big gala in the old gym. We said that Ernie Eveland's Gym is a gym for the city of Parrish. You remember that?
Correct, yes.
And it will continue to be a gym for the city of Parrish. And we'll continue to use it. We use it for practices for basketball, boys, girls practices, anything that somebody wants to use that gym for, call the city of Parrish, it's available.
And did you see any kind of a dynamic change as far as traffic flow with the new high school being all the way on the north end of town? Did you notice much difference in traffic over the past year with there not being any activity with the high school? The old high school was at the center part of town.
The only thing that I noticed is, of course, not a lot of parking down around the high school.
Right.
The traffic pattern is about the same. Now, as you get to the north end of the city, where the high school is, we will be working, and we're taking bids, matter of fact, now for June to open up, and so we'll have a turning lane going into the high school. But I think we've been fairly surprised by the lack of problems that we have out there. There are 2 ways to get into the high school, and Tanner was working there last year, so he would be able to know, but I think it worked out okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
Excellent. I'm going to get Tanner involved here with some of the things at Parrish High School and some other things, but I want to ask you lastly, Craig, about a year later, the new Parrish High School has been open a year, and the impact it had on the town. Are people still just as excited about it?
They're just as excited, if not more so, because I think that it's a beautiful facility. But they didn't realize all the good things that would happen out there. And the Fine Arts Building is by far the best place to have any kind of a theatrical play. I've been to the plays in Chicago and New York, and quite frankly, and this is the truth, I'm not puffing it just because it's Parrish, even though I like to puff Parrish.
That's fine.
It's a wonderful facility and great place to go, and people need to come and take advantage of it. There's things going out at the Fine Arts Building all the time.
So the high school and the Fine Arts Building, they're together. It's another great resource for Parrish.
Great resource. Fantastic.
Okay, and let's bring Tanner in. And Tanner, understand that you've been working at the high school and the new and old high school over the last couple of years as an assistant to Principal Dave Meister.
Yeah.
And so you firsthand kind of got to see the transition from an old building that's been in Parrish for a long time to the new building in Parrish. How did that transition go, you think?
Yeah, I got to work at the old school. I got to see the new school start from the ground up, and then I got to be there for a year. So the transition was much smoother than I anticipated. Obviously, when you think of moving a building of that size and moving 600 kids to a new place and having to fend for yourself, I anticipated it to be a lot worse than it was. And it was really seamless. The kids embraced everything, all the changes, and it was just an awesome school year. It really was.
What do you remember about those first couple of weeks? I know we're going back almost a full year, but what do you remember about the kids coming into the building those first couple of weeks and going to school? Were they stargazing or
a little bit? Yeah. We hosted an orientation for each class. Normally we would just do that for the freshman class since it's their first time in a new building, but this past year all 4 classes were new. So we hosted one for each class. So they got in before the first day of school. So that kind of took their nerves off that first day of school.
And you're working alongside as an assistant to Dave Meister, the principal. We had him on he was a tour guide for us. He showed us around the building there last summer, and that was fantastic. What What things did you learn about the new high school, or what amazed you about that new building the most? Is there any one thing that really stuck out to you?
There's two things that stick out to me. One would be the gym. I mean, you just walk into that place and it's huge and it's grand and it is everything that a gym should be. And then the fine arts facility. Again, like Mayor Craig said, it's awesome. There's no better place to host a theatrical performance, a concert, anything. And the town has really embraced coming out there and supporting the arts, not only in the school, but the different things that have come out there from around the area as well.
And I want to ask you one more question about the new high school, and then we'll talk about some chamber stuff,
okay.
Obviously, with your new title. You co-directed Mayfete, which is, people know with Parrish, Mayfete is a very big deal.
It is.
90th edition, or almost 100 years of Mayfete going on.
Yeah.
And I think people were probably wondering a little bit, was the Mayfete for this recent spring going to be in the old building or the new building?
Right.
And so you co-directed the most recent Mayfete at the new building. Was there a seamless transition there as well?
Yeah, and that was a big debate for a long time. Where's it going to be? Is it going to be at the old? Is it going to be at the new? And everything that we had done for the school year had been at the new. We hadn't gone back to the old and had anything there. So that, to me, was really the last piece of the puzzle, getting the transition finalized. Everything had been at the new place. That is those students' school. And they deserve to have it there, just as they're having everything else for their school years there. So the town embraced it, and we threw a Mayfete that looked and felt just like the old Mayfete, and I think people were very, very pleasantly surprised when they left.
All right, very good. Well, you're here as the new executive director at the Parrish Chamber, just a couple weeks in, and what made you want to apply for a position like that? Because you have quite a few responsibilities.
Yeah. Again, I love Parrish. That's where I've grown up, and want to help see Parrish succeed and thrive. And I felt the director of the Chamber of Commerce has that kind of role, and one that can plan events and get people excited and the public involved, and that's what we're looking forward to doing.
And as we get a little bit close to the end of our segment here with you two guys, what are some of the upcoming events here coming up involving the Chamber that maybe you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, we have a wine, art, and music night coming up June 25th, which we're going to shut down the south side of the square and bring in art vendors, and there will be a painting class on the lawn of the square and live music acts coming in. So it'll just be a great night to come out and hang out on the square and have a lot of fun.
I want to ask you guys about the square, because at the end of the program we're going to have Edgar County Historian Heck Parrish. He loves the courthouse very much, and it's right there at the heart of Parrish. How important, I'll start with you, Tanner, the importance of the Edgar County Courthouse as a focal point of the square.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when you think of the square, you automatically think of the courthouse. And there's not many places that you can go around the area that have a courthouse as grand as the Edgar County Courthouse. I mean, it pretty much is a showstopper. So anytime I think of the square, the courthouse is the first thing that pops into my mind.
And Craig, when you can't miss it, and a lot of great communities in central Illinois, their focal point is still the courthouse if they have one there on the square. And how important, what does the Edgar County Courthouse mean to Parrish?
Well, you know, my other job, I'm a lawyer, so I appear in the courthouse quite often.
So you're there quite a lot.
And it's very important, because a lot of communities are not keeping their historic buildings, and normally the historic building is the courthouse. And in our case, it's the center of our community. It's where all the retail establishments used to be, and we're trying to develop the downtown area, so Tanner will be very instrumental in that. We try to have as many things going on down there, but the building itself is magnificent, and it's a wonderful place to practice law in, too.
All right, very good. Coming up in the summer, as we're on the start of summer here, we have the Edgar County Fair and the Honeybee Festival. Exciting times in a lot of communities they're holding lots of events. Those are two of the big ones for Parrish. We
also have 13 parks. People don't realize it. And we also have music in the park every Thursday night. It's free to the community. A lot of things going on. We're going to establish a Facebook page called Parrish Parks, and you can go on that to find out what's going on each week at the parks.
And speaking of parks, how is the new addition of the Splash Park?
Splash Park is going crazy. They're loving it. The kids love it. The beach is open on the other side. So there's a lot of things going on at Twin Lakes Park. Fishing, A lot of fishermen out there. We didn't realize how many until...
You have a little bit of water up there.
Yeah, there's a little water, so we're taking advantage of it. But Parrish is a great place to be in the spring and summer, so come to Parrish.
That's right. There's a lot to do if you just go out and look for it.
And Craig, let me ask you a little bit about Tanner, not to pat your back too much, but you have Tanner here who grew up in Parrish, so his knowledge of the community probably makes him pretty qualified for what he's doing.
He's very qualified, and the good thing about Tanner is this is what we want in Parrish. We want our kids who grew up here, educated, come back to Parrish because they have so much to give to Parrish. We don't want to have that brain drain where they grow up here, go to school here, get educated, don't come back. Tanner will show people that this is a great place to work and come back home. There'll be plenty of jobs, and he's going to be very successful. And he's Tanner's a go-get guy, so this is going to be a good fit for him and our community.
And Tanner, I want to ask you one last question here. What are you most excited about with your new position as the executive director at the Chamber?
Just bringing a new, fresh, fun aspect to it. I think we've got a lot of cool things coming up, a lot of good ideas that are brewing for some new things, and just bringing a fresh perspective to everything.
All right, very good. And I want to thank both of you guys for coming on City Spotlight. Craig Smith, the Mayor of Parrish, Tanner Laughlin, the new Executive Director at the Parrish Chamber of Commerce. Gentlemen, it's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Enjoyed it.
And coming up next here on City Spotlight, we'll talk about the Edgar County Courthouse with Edgar County Historian Heck Parrish. But first, we'll take a look at some of the upcoming activities going on in Parrish. And welcome back to City Spotlight. We're now in downtown Parrish, and we have the Edgar County Courthouse behind us. And to help us learn a little bit about the Edgar County Courthouse, we have Edgar County Historian Heck Parrish. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it. And in all your researches and discoveries that you've done and the many things you've done as a historian, I take it the Edgar County Courthouse, from what I've learned about you, is there are not many things that you love more than this courthouse.
I've been a fan of this courthouse, if you could call it a fan, probably I'm 74 years old, so probably about 70. Because my granddad in the early 40s used to walk me around the square. He had a business up here. When we got done of an evening and I was a tyke, he'd walk me around, and I always was in awe of this wonderful building behind us. And often he would take me in the courthouse to see the judges and the clerks, and I've met a lot of wonderful people, have a lot of friends through the years who've worked in this building, and today have some great friends in here. And I'm in it a lot, do a lot of research from the courthouse. It's a great thing. It's a great building and full of history, and I've studied it in depth for 30 years, and love studying it, love the building.
So you've been in it many times personally,
oh,
and
yes.
Being a historian, you've said you've researched it for 30 years, so you know quite a bit. Let's tell the folks at home a little history about it. When did this building go up?
Okay, the building was started in 1891. There was the citizens of the county wanted a courthouse. Now, here on this site, there had been 2 courthouses before. The first courthouse was across the street at Pierman Pharmacy, where it is now. Then they built a courthouse here. That was called the Old Rookery, and it was called the Old Rookery because as it got older, around 1860, it started falling apart basically. Roof had holes in it, windows were knocked out, holes in the walls, and the people that used the upper floor of that courthouse were mostly pigeons. Not people, but, so they called it the Old Rookery. In 1865, that building was sold for $81, and they demolished it. And then this lot here, the square, the inside of the square, sat vacant for 5 years. The people decided they wanted a courthouse. They passed a referendum to fund it. The job was let to the Hibbert brothers from Ohio, 2 brothers, And they started building this courthouse in 1893. Now that's really brief because there's a lot more that goes to this story. But it was started to be built in 1891, okay? In 1891, in November of that year, they had the cornerstone laid for this building. The Masonic Lodge, which is right here across the street, laid the cornerstone. Huge ceremony. If you look at the courthouse, where the first steps that go up the first landing,
Okay.
that was all just a platform, okay? And that platform was full of people. There's 24,000 people at that celebration. They
Wow.
came from all over by train, horse and buggy, wagon, stagecoach, and the square was full of people. Huge parade, and they all sat on that platform. Well, of course, after the cornerstone was laid, the courthouse, they started building, and it was finished in 1893. There was no dedication to the courthouse when it was finished because the weather got sour. It was in November. Mm-hmm. So this courthouse actually was never dedicated. The cornerstone was dedicated, but you know, that way, but when it was finished, there was no ceremony. The clock tower was an afterthought.
Okay.
If you look at the courthouse, just where the tile roof is, the red from there up wasn't going to be there. And after about a year and a half of construction, the citizens thought they wanted a clock tower. And it's described in flowery words in all of the minutes of what they wanted. But at that time, you could see that clock tower for miles around. That's how big, those clocks are 7 foot tall. And that's how the clock tower came into, it was an afterthought.
The importance, the significance of this courthouse for downtown Parrish, the residents of Edgar County, what does it mean to all these people?
It's extremely, extremely important that this building is here and remains here. Everything legal is done in that building. Hundreds of attorneys, dozens of citizens are in and out of this building on a yearly basis. The recorder's office, the circuit clerk's office, the judge's chambers, the state's attorney's chambers, everything is done here. Hence, the square is alive basically because of that building. If you look around the square, there are still quite a few businesses here, and the Chamber of Commerce and the mayor, they are constantly trying to find people to come in, move into these buildings, and they are. Pierman's Pharmacy's been here since the 1850s,
Right.
40s. It's crucial because it brings people downtown Parrish. And it keeps the community alive because there's a lot of activities on this square throughout the year. There's a couple of festivals that are right here on the square. The Christmas pageant brought hundreds of people here for the last couple of years. In the dead of winter, I mean, and it's just, it's crucial that this building remain here, and it's just wonderful that it is. And the people that have made it possible for this building to remain here should be congratulated and thanked for making it possible that this building remain here. And there's been movement to move it. There's been movement to move these offices out, but they've opted to renovate, remodel, and keep them here, and God bless them for doing it.
Thank you for your history, Heck, on the Edgar County Courthouse. We can definitely see the passion and the love for it. And now we're going to wrap up this show on Parrish here on City Spotlight. We're going to take a tour of the Edgar County Courthouse now.
As you can see, we're in the Edgar County Courthouse, and we're on the second floor. The first floor is the basement. The wainscoting, all of the marble, the steps and all the marble on the wainscoting was brought here by rail from St. Louis from the Pickle Marble Company in 1891. And you'll see that they found the original floors. They took up a bunch of tile and it actually cleaned up. And what you're seeing is the tile that was put down circa 1893. Of course, this was one of the last things that was done. The marble steps are just the way they were in the 1890s when they built the building, and so is the zinc stamped ceiling. We're on the third floor, and this floor houses the state's attorney's office and the judge's chambers, a courtroom, and the library, as well as the probation office. This is, of course, the upstairs courtroom. You could call it the main courtroom. And this has all been remodeled Now, in the 1800s, up until about 1960, and I'd have to verify the date on this, this was all remodeled. And the courtroom actually was reversed. The courtroom sat like this. This was the jury room, that door was the jury room, and then upstairs, which you're going to see in a minute, there were balconies where the spectators could sit, not only in here, but upstairs. It held 1,600 people, this room and those balconies upstairs. From the time you enter the building to the top of the bell tower, you've climbed 159 steps. It's a lot of steps. What you're looking at right now are the doors that lead into the balcony, one of the balconies that looked over the original courtroom. You can see there's tiers in there where the chairs were, and the courtroom was right below this little wall built across here, okay? Now we're going on up into the tower. Actually, we're going into the attic, and then we're going into the tower. Watch your step. The tower itself is 159 feet tall. That's to the top of the statue. It's the tallest edifice in the county. And you can see, as you're going to witness in a moment or two, miles and miles and miles. And we'll get up here and we've got a beautiful day to do it because the sun's shining and it's neat. What you're looking at right now is the first 3 layers of the wedding cake. You're not seeing the top yet. You're seeing the floor of the top, where the clock's housed, where the clockworks is housed. And then yet above that, another floor is the bell. And that's where we're going now. You've only got 3 more flights of stairs to do. This is the clockworks right here. And I know that window's filthy, but that's a Seth Thomas Model 16. It was driven by 2 pendulums that weighed 1,500 pounds. That's what rang the chimes on the bell. Straight east of here, I'm looking at a tower that is almost impossible for me to describe where it is, but that's Clinton, Indiana, and it's right on the Wabash River. That is about 17 miles due east of here. That you see in the immediate foreground is the Illinois cereal mill. That building is also 159 feet tall. This building at the top of the statue beats that in height by 6 inches.
City Spotlight is supported by Consolidated Communications. CCI is honored to salute the cities and their leaders in the area, as well as providing TV, internet, and phone service to local homes and businesses. We live where we work and are proud to support the communities we serve. More information available at consolidated.com.